It's been 6 months and 16 days since I've had a sip of alcohol. And so for me, I need everyone to know that is mind-blowing, earth-shattering. I just started looking at all the bad decisions I've made in my life, and not a single one of them did not involve alcohol. And so I just was like, you know what? I'm not saying everyone has to do this, but I have more clarity. I'm not, my body feels better. It's been probably one of the healthiest things, not only for my body, but for my parenting, for my relationship with my friends, for my marriage, all of these things. Like, it's been so good, dude.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Follow2Lead Podcast, a Christian leaders podcast powered by EBEB Solutions, energy benefits for every business. Go to ebebsolutions.com today and get your free energy audit. It can literally save you time and money. Friends, welcome 2026. I'm so glad you're here. I'm glad we're here together, and I'm so excited about the emphasis that we're putting on transformation this year. That's right. If you're a leader and you're listening to this, be sure to download or go to follow2leadbenchmark.com and start your benchmark assessment. Because at the end of this year, I want to give you a gift of leadership, growth, transformation, all of it together to kind of help you lean into what it means to be a leader. And when I think about transformation, I can't think of a better guest to start off 2026 than my friend Carlos Whittaker. Carlos has been on the podcast numerous times. I've had him come out and speak to groups, which I highly recommend if you're looking for a speaker in 26. But in today's conversation, he and I talk about leadership. We talk about personal growth. We talk about grief and the loss of his dad. Carlos shares why leadership isn't reserved for those with just titles, but it's something that every person carries through their influence and their presence. You carry it through you. Your presence and where you show up. Throughout our dialogue, Carlos talks about his newest book. This is a great teaser for that. And we talk about seasons of loss. We talk about reflection. I'm so excited for this conversation. It's driven in real world examples, and I just know you're going to enjoy it. So as always, please follow my friend Carlos on Instagram and make sure to stay all the way to the end, because this year, instead of the 3 and 5, we're going to lean into a coach's question. At the end of every podcast, one question for you to wrestle with. And if you want to send your answer my way, I would love to hear it. So stay all the way to the end for the coach's question. Now let's see if we can't grow together. So now here's a quick word from our sponsor, and then my conversation with Carlos Whittaker. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm so excited today to have one of my dear friends, repeat offender, Carlos Whittaker. Carlos, thank you so much for being the first guest of 2026. Let's go.
Come on, man. Come to 2026 for both of us.
Right. Okay. So this, as I mentioned before I hit record, this year we're doing something a little different on the podcast. Okay. We're answering one question every single month, and we're going to start the conversation off with this question. And so here's the question for your wisdom to give all the bold ones that listen to the podcast. Carlos, how do I know if I'm a leader?
The answer is going to be, if you just heard Tony say that, you're a leader. If you have ears and if you have breath, you are a leader. So yeah, so there's the simple answer, is that every single person listening to this is a leader. I don't care if you are 15 ranks down the chain of command at whatever job you're at, you're a leader. And you are leading somebody, and somebody's going to make a decision based on an action that you take today. So if that's the case, then you're a leader.
When did you first realize that that was true for you, that you were actually leading people?
I think it was, honestly, this is way back in my worship leader days. Yeah. What a funny title too. Also, I mean, we can unpack that
worship
for a whole hour.
Days.
Worship leader, right?
Just it was your era, your worship leader era.
My era, and it's funny because even so when I was doing that, I was in the midst of when it transitioned from being called a music minister to a worship leader. And I can't remember. I think I'd gone to maybe one of the early Passions, and somebody had said something about a worship leader. And I'm like, worship leader? Like, what is that? Like, well, I mean, is that what I do every week? Like that? Oh, look at me. I'm a worship leader. And then so like, but I remember very quickly, because the term was so new. Again, this was like, the term was so new as a worship leader that at the beginning, I actually was like, what a load of crap. What worship leader? What a impossible job. What an impossible job description. And so I kind of went into it questioning just what that was. And then, at my church at the time, again, this is 20 years ago, so we're all more mature, myself, my bosses, everyone included.
Sure.
But at the time, 20 years ago, Carlos, doing ministry, was told that I'm not a leader of people, but I'm good at singing. So just get on stage, keep doing what I'm doing. Oh, because I think I'd asked for like an intern. I was like, man, I'm like overwhelmed with everything. And they're like, we're not going to give you an intern because we just don't think you can manage people, but you're really good at singing on Sundays. And so like, I remember being like, oh, I guess I'm not a leader. Like, I guess I'm not a leader of people. Until like one Sunday, I can't remember what it was. Like I asked everyone in the room to raise their hands about, for something. I was like, let's just lift our hands. And everyone did it. And I was like, well, so does this microphone make me a leader? Like the fact that I just spoke this and 1,000 people lift their hands. But then I'm being trusted to lead for 30 minutes in this context, but I can't be trusted with a single person the other 6 days a week. So I think for me, that was when I started. Oh no, I'll go a little farther in this story. So then, and you're gonna understand this because you were around in this era of blogging. But then, like, that was my battle in my local job, in my local ministry context. But then I started this blog, and I was writing every day about worship and ministry and all of these things. And I remember like 100 people read it a day, then 1,000 people read it a day, then 10,000 people read it a day. And next thing you know, like, here I was, as a worship leader at this little church, but my blog was being read by thousands and thousands of people every single day. And I remember thinking to myself, wait a second, I am a leader. Like I'm a leader. I'm a thought leader. I'm a worship leader. And so then began the battle in my brain of which one am I? And am I really a leader? All those things. And so I think for me, the kind of Phoenix Rising version of my leadership came once I was able to lead digitally when I had more people kind of telling me like, no, actually, like I'm following you for your thoughts and things, as opposed to just having one person tell me that I'm not a leader.
That's so good. And I think some people forget that like influence has so much to do with leadership, and we have that ability to influence people. We have that ability to lean in and kind of to really, I mean, a lot of the work that you do on a daily basis on Instagram is to influence them, not necessarily to change their behaviors,
sure,
but to get them to think differently. Right. And so how do you decide how you're going to lead the Insta Familia, this giant movement of people?
Yeah. Well, I think it shifts and it moves. I think if you asked me that question when I was sitting on a stage with you versus now, I think if you talked to me a year ago versus now, 2 years ago versus now, 3 years ago, it changes. I think that depending on kind of the current cultural climate and what I'm feeling, it'll change as far as like, okay, what am I going to, I think, 4 years ago, I was really leaning into, I'm going to lead them through confusion on what is happening in our country, on a political spectrum and on a justice spectrum. That's where I am. And then I think I made a decision to start leading people through what grief looks like as I walked my father through the end of his life. And now I'll be honest with you, my dad died in February. There's been a lot of healing that has happened, not even with my dad, but just in my personal life and therapy and a lot of things that I've walked through this year that I'm in a place where I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to lead people through right now. And maybe it's not a season for me to be leading people. A lot of people are like, Carlos, like you're not as vocal on Instagram as you used to be. You're not on there every single day showing your every single moment of your life. I'm like, yeah, because I think maybe leadership for me is showing people that you don't have to get on your phone and perform every day and contribute to the content engine that is out there. Maybe my leadership right now looks like people going like, oh, if Carlos can pull back, maybe I can too. And so, I think I've always been very good at taking a step back away from my opinions and my convictions. I think I've really been good at taking a step away from that and looking at a bigger picture as to what it is I'll be good at helping people walk through. And I think a lot of leaders, they make the mistake of just leading through their convictions and leading through what they feel is right and what they know, instead of taking a step away and going like, okay, well, I know what I know, but like maybe there's something bigger. Maybe there's a bigger version of leadership for me. And so I think where that's helped me is I've had a lot of people that probably disagree with me on a lot of things that still allow me to lead them. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, you know, I mean, I just, you know, finished a podcast literally right now where I felt a little conviction, and I felt convicted to lead on something specific. I've been scrolling on my phone and just the last few weeks, and Christians are just on Christian Instagram are just living in this like outrage machine. Yeah. And I just am like, and so I literally talked for 30 minutes about how I think we've lost the plot, and like, what in the world? Like, what, we're literally sitting here talking. People with millions of followers are spending their time trying to convince people not to go trick-or-treating or not to listen to Taylor Swift's album. And I'm like, this is what you're spending your time doing. Like, we have lost the freaking plot, man. Like, while we're, don't get me started, but like while we're busy trying to get people to like perform selectively for us, it's like, we've got a freaking neighbor that's suicidal down the street. Yeah. You got a kid that's cutting themselves in your, like, there's all that how can we be the hands and feet where we're just like, anyway, so like I felt this holy fire inside of me, and I was like, boom, boom. So there it was. Like, I felt convicted enough to lead on that topic for 30 minutes today. And maybe that'll be the only time I jump in a conversation like that for a month. But I definitely feel like it's ebbs and it flows.
Yeah. One of the interesting things that I feel like I've been seeing lately with your content is this deep desire to just be personal, right? Instead of being public, be personal. Yeah. And that idea that like, hey, we're going to stop and we're going to listen to the stories. And you did a podcast with your mom a little bit ago about, you know, telling stories, and then also on your Insta story about, you know, talking to the next generation about stories. And one of the things I feel like I'm watching in real time as somebody who's just like an internet friend to you is like, this is patriarch Carlos. Yeah. Like, this is you standing, and I'll forget the moment. Like, it was like a Holy Spirit moment for me as I was looking at your picture of you standing in a river in Alaska, smoking a pipe, fly fishing. And I was like, he entered a different phase of manhood, I think. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I'd be interested to get your thoughts if you, obviously this is all tied to your dad. And when we lose our dads, like it's a wild emotional experience, but what's that transition been like for you?
Bro, you said we only have an hour, bro. This is like 15 hours worth of conversations. You know, I think that everything changed when I lost my dad. Everything. And bro, I'm 50. How old am I? 52? Maybe 52, I think. You know, and so like this is the time you're supposed to lose your dad, right? Like I'm like, he lived a long life, you know, it's like, but man, how everything shifted and crumbled. And I just was like, well, it was one of the moments for me, perspective changing moments when I was like, okay, this is different now, was when one of my cousins called me and he was crying. And this is months after my dad passed away. He goes, hey, Carlos, like I used to call your dad for these kind of questions, man. I'm just so worried about this. And then he starts telling me, and then I'm like, oh my God. Listen, this cousin has never called me for any life questions or whatever. Yeah. Suddenly he called me. Why? Well, because my dad's not here anymore. And because he kind of sees me as the wise Whittaker. And so that take the baton, because now it's your time. And it was in that moment that I was like, you know what? I'd already been feeling it when I turned 50. Like I called it when I turned 50, I called it like I'm entering my Andy Stanley era is what I called it.
That's such a good name.
and so like, and people are like, what do you mean? I was like, well, I worked at North Point when Andy turned 50. So I was like a service programming director, like a, you know, whatever. And I remember like from 50 to 60, not that he's not influential now, but from 50 to 60, Andy Stanley was probably the most influential he's ever been in his life. I'm telling you, like he had. And so when I turned 50, I was like, I got a decade of probably having the most influence I've ever had in my entire life. Then when my dad died, I said, I got to shore things up. Like I don't want to waste a second. So I think that's why I'm being so careful about when I step into what I'm going to step into, whatever the Lord leads me to step into next, every decision is so, I feels so much more weighty, so much more, what did you call me? What era am I in? Like patriarch. Everything feels like, man, like there's a lot more people listening now. I've done a lot more deep cleaning in my soul since my dad passed away, right? Like I mean, in my marriage, my wife and I have entered into probably the best season of marriage we've ever been in. Why? Because I made a decision when I was doing deep work and I was like, you know what? I still have some dark areas in my life that she doesn't even know about. So guess what? Not only marriage counseling, marriage intensive. Let me let all the light in to my life. Now my wife knows every single thing about me. For the last 25 years, she knows it all. There's no more darkness. There's no more secrets. There's no more this. What did that do for me? That freed me up even more. So bro, suddenly I just, and I've done that in every aspect of my life this year. I've literally done that with all of the close relationships in my life. I've healed them all. I've gone in deep. And I did all this work because when my father died and I saw him take his last breath, I just thought I started, having probably for about 24 hours, almost like a long panic attack of like, well, wait a second, bro, my dad was like the most saint of a man ever. He preached all around the world. He did everything right. But when he took his last breath, did he do it? Did he fulfill what he wanted to fulfill? Was it worth it? And all these questions, right, started. Yeah. He followed the blueprint. He did it all. But did he get to where he was supposed to get to? And I'm just telling you, man, all of those things got me to start really diving deep into the blueprint that I followed. Now I'm actually giving you a little sneak peek into my next book.
Can't wait.
But did the blueprint I follow get me to the fulfillment I expected it to get me to? The answer is probably no. And so what do I have to do? I kind of have to get rid of that and start navigating. Instead of navigating using a blueprint, I feel like I'm starting to navigate using a compass. And I feel like this new season of life, this patriarch season, is less blueprint, more compass. And a compass isn't going to tell me where to go. It just tells me where north is in my life. And so now I've got north. And so I can make a decision if I'm going to go west, but I always know where north is. And so I just am in this patriarch season where I don't want to waste a breath. I don't want to waste. And so for me, wasting breath started with healing up my family, healing up my friends. And once I got into healing in that space, now I'm just now getting to where I can step a little bit on the outside and maybe start helping people that aren't interacting with me on a daily basis. And then hopefully by the time I hit 60 and I step out of my Andy Stanley era and I hand the baton to the next 50-year-old, I could be like, all right, I did it. I'm just going to golf and fish every day with Tony.
Don't tease me with a good time. In the midst of all of this, you've now are planning for another wedding, which is incredible. And so how does this planning feel different than with your other daughter's wedding? And we talked about this the last time you were on the podcast, is how do you mix the grief of knowing that your dad is dying, which is where we were when we recorded September of 24, versus now you're planning a wedding and he's not going to even be there at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
And whenever that wedding happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I think honestly, I grieved my father so long before he passed away, because he had dementia, for the people that don't know, that, now it's more of grieving for my mom, who is going to be at the wedding knowing that my dad doesn't even know, right? That he's gone. So it's kind of shifted a lot in my grief, and I've welcomed my grief in. I tell people all the time, like your grieving is going to take longer if you don't invite it in, and walk with it. And so, knowing that I think for me, it's going to be when Sienna gets married, my next daughter, in March, it's going to be more of, I'm going to stand up there probably feeling more like my dad than I even did the last time, because I'm like, well, I am the patriarch now. I am the oldest Whittaker. Yeah. And, I'm a lot slower to speak these days, even in advice to Sienna and her, fiance Noah. There's a lot more, I don't know. There's a lot more of me saying, and so when I do give some sort of advice or like, I feel like it's weightier now. And I feel like they feel like it's weightier. I feel like everybody that I'm around feels, wow, Carlos, like there's just a little bit more weight when you're speaking and when you're leaning into something. And I'm like, yeah, because I'm just kind of tired of wasting breath on stuff that doesn't matter. So
if that's not the definition of wisdom, I don't know what is. Like, that's a beautiful idea. And one of the things that I've enjoyed seeing from you and Heather this year is these new parenting resources that you've been putting out.
Yeah.
And so, as somebody who's just a little bit behind you in their journey, and I've really enjoyed seeing it. It seems like it's been really well received. What was it like for you to create this resource with your wife? It's not a normal practice. I'm sure it changed the creative rhythms. I'm sure it created a lot of opportunities for personal growth.
Bro. So here's the thing, like I you know me, I get to have ideas all the time. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Like because I always said, people are always asking us to write parenting books, as our kids were like,
listen, I think you guys should do a marriage conference.
Yeah. Well, bro, give us 5 more years, but we're still in the depths of too much marriage counseling ourselves, 25 years in. But I think that, for so long, I've just had ideas and I do it. Fit by first, 30 days of like fitness journey with Carlos. I mean, I've just had the craziest ideas. Right. And I've done them all. And this one was the same thing. I'm like, babe, like people always asked us to do something parenting, but I was like, how am I going to do a parenting resource when I've got a 10-year-old? Like I could still jack them up, but finally here we are. Like our kids, we got them through childhood. They are now all grown adults. And if they end up in prison, it's their own fault now, not mine. So let's do something, babe. I said, what if we started off with something really simple? Like, I wrote a book called Moment Maker in 2014, and we always had family nights and all these cool ideas. What if we just kind of put them in a PDF? Literally simple. I was like, just like, how to help your kids, or not how to help your kids, but how to have like a screen light, not screen free, but like screen light time with your kids where, and we gave 100 ideas, and parents are always looking for more ideas on how to keep their kids off screens. So I literally came up with, 100 ideas, and I was like, babe, why don't you just kind of input in here, bro? I gave her that PDF, and I worked like two weeks on it. I don't even know how to explain. We've never done anything like this together before. She was like, no, this isn't going to work. If I'm going to put my name on this, this has to be good. And so she literally got rid of every single idea I had. And she's like, no, like you're half of these things we haven't even done. I'm going through. And so she starts going through all of the things we ever did. And so it turned into a monster of a project where my wife was working on this thing probably 5 hours a day for like 3 weeks. She's just in it and then editing and then sending to me, and then I'm sending it to Whitney, and it turned into this really big thing, but we really enjoyed it. Like I'd never created something like that with her. And, we again, it was like a $27 PDF, kind of deal. And had a little web app that went with it, helping people. It was 100 ideas. But if there was anything that came out of it, I thought, you know what? We sold so many of them and I have everyone's emails that again, I'm thinking I have to, my wife and I still haven't gotten to a yes together yet, but I was like, these people are desperate, man. They are like, people are so desperate to help their kids. I was like, babe, what if we what if we offered some sort of 6-week cohort or set where we just kind of pour into parents of tweens and teens, or even little kids if they want, but like parents that are like at their wits end, and we're just like, hey, let us help you. We've been through it. We've struggled all the ways you have. And so there's even more dreams now in the parenting space that we're starting to think about. And I love that we're able to do this now in this season, because now we've got one left at home. He's a freshman in college, but we've got way more time to dream together than we ever did before.
One of the things I love about you, and I told you this before we hit record, is your kind of addictive personality. And so we're in the golf phase and pickleball, and I'm always curious about how you redefine your disciplines by a season, because I know you're still doing coffee in the morning at home, practice from your last kind of experience and book. What does it look like when you introduce a new hobby that's all consuming, like a lot of us do? How do you shift your time and your disciplines so that Heather doesn't feel left out, so that you still get all the stuff to Whitney that you're supposed to, so that you can still produce podcasts. Because I'm like, man, how does this guy have time for so much golf, right? Like, doesn't his job get in the way, right? And so it's like, I'm dying to know. Tell the rest of us how we can sneak in more rounds.
Yeah. You know, I mean, what I need to do is just let you call Whitney and ask her how many hours of phone calls I've had with her while she just hears golf clubs rattling around in the back. And as I'm talking to her, going like, hey, hold on 1 second, I got a 9-foot putt. And then, okay, so anyway, back to like, I literally am like, you know, hyper. On it, yeah. I am working on it. But here's the thing. Like, so yes, I'm completely addicted to golf, but like, I will always go through a phase at the beginning of a new obsession where it is unhealthily leaning in that direction, where I'm just like, my wife and my assistant are both like, bro, like things are falling through the cracks. You've got to, you know, and so it always takes me realizing, okay, I'm mildly too obsessed. I'm losing some things to where I go, okay, if this is a new thing that I'm passionate about, which I am with golf, how can I make sure that I am continuing to be the husband, be the boss, be the content creator, be the, you know, Insta familial leader, whatever, while I am enjoying this thing? Because I think what my wife realizes when I get a new obsession is she would much rather me be addicted to fly fishing, beekeeping, or golf than vodka, you know, all of these other things. And so I think there's a little bit of grace there, but I have to make sure that the rhythms of my relationship with Jesus, my morning time, my sleep, my exercise. I realize with golf's going to make me fat. Pickleball made me skinny. So like golf, like I'm just riding around a go-kart all day. Like I've got to walk now. So again, so this is a new thing. Like
I play
I'm
better
walking.
when I walk anyway.
Yeah. So it's like now I'm walking and now I'm way more tired at the end of a round of golf, you know, and my heart rate's up and, you know, all of these things. And so I don't think I've got like a perfect system when it comes to, you know, disciplines and habits, but I do have to, I'm forced to, because I have such an addictive personality, I'm forced to make sure that I combine it with the necessities of my life in a healthy way. So whereas I'm 3.5 months into my golf journey now, I'd say for a month and a half, it was completely unhealthy and obsessive. And the last 2 months, I've found a rhythm where I'm like, you know what, I'm going to play 9 holes twice a week. And I'm going to be at 6:30 in the morning before my wife even wakes up. So I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. I'm going to have my morning coffee, get on the course, and I'm going to be back home by 9 a.m. to get my day going. No more afternoon golf for me. Like that's just not allowed anymore. And so like all of these things I've had to do, I've had to shift, I've had to change.
Sure.
And I also know that there are going to be things that I can no longer do when a new thing comes in. So I have to make a conscious choice to, again, pickleball, which I was obsessed with the last time I talked to you, has been replaced. And I have to make sure that I know, okay, like I'm going to play pickleball tonight at Jefferson Bethke's house. He's just as addicted to pickleball. He's built 2 pickleball courts in his backyard. He's got 8 dudes coming in.
Wow.
And I got the invitation and I'm like, you know what? I was going to play golf this morning. I didn't because I knew I was going to go play pickleball tonight. So like, I just have to make sure that I'm maintaining some level of normalcy in this, you know, obsessive mind that I have. I will continue to be obsessed. I tell Heather, when I'm 85, I wonder what my new thing's going to be. I'm going to have a new thing when I'm 85. This isn't going to end at 52. So what's the thing I'm going to be into at 85? I just love being curious. I think it's, again, when it comes to leaders, I think if you're not a beginner at something all the time, then you're not at your best. So I think that's where a lot of it comes in is I want to make sure that I'm always a beginner.
I'm trying to get my wife to let me buy a Sprinter van.
Oh, there we go.
Because I'd like to do more traveling. Our kids are getting older and they're spreading out. And I would like, hey, babe, a Sprinter van, we could just go. So one of the questions I did want to ask you, very practical, how did your back survive you guys sleeping in the car in Alaska? Because I'm hurting for you. I'm like, you doing that, then you're playing golf. I hope there's a chiropractor appointment in there somewhere.
Well, you know, my wife and I that was the first time we'd ever done that. Slept in the back of a Suburban. But we did that for a couple nights in Wyoming and it was awesome, you know, and my back hurt and, you know, I'm old. And so I don't have an answer for you. It hurt.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. It hurt. Just hurt. Okay. Well, that's good. One of the things that you did say the last time you were on the podcast is that I asked you at the end of the podcast, I asked you, hey, what are we celebrating 1 year from now? Right. And I said, let's wonder together. Do you remember what you said?
No, I'm petrified as to what
you said. You said 1 year from today, I want to be the healthiest I've ever been. I want to get on your podcast. I want to lift up my shirt and show you my abs.
Wow. I said that to you.
Yeah. I went back and listened to it today.
That's mind blowing. Well, let me tell you.
How did we do it being healthy this year? That's really the question.
1 year from today, I will lift up my shirt and we will do it again, because I definitely was not the healthiest. I think in this season, I actually had probably 6 months where I probably was. And I was, I can probably pickleball. Like I was just playing it hours a day.
You talked a lot about your food and how you're using food to battle some of your own dementia.
Yeah.
Fears of dementia and like that kind of stuff. Like it was all very
I will tell you this. I am, as of right now, October 22nd. So April, May to June, July, October. Wait, April, May, June.
For those of you who aren't watching, he's counting on his fingers.
I'm counting on my fingers. It's been 6 months and 16 days since I've had a sip of alcohol. And so for me, I need everyone to know that is mind blowing, earth shattering. And again, this has all come in with all of this healing that I've done this year, all the therapy that I've done, I'm 6 months sober. And I went, I just started looking at all the bad decisions I've made in my life. And not a single one of them did not involve alcohol. And so I just was like, you know what? I'm not saying everyone has to do this, but for me, I have more clarity. I'm not, my body feels better. The fact that I haven't had a sip of alcohol in over 6 months is pretty mind blowing to me. And it's been probably one of the healthiest things, not only for my body, but for my parenting, for my relationship with my friends, for my marriage, all of these things. Like, it's been so good, dude. So I think that was something that I didn't have on the radar when I talked to you. I love it. But that was a decision that I made that now 6 months in, I'm like, I don't know if I'll ever have a drink again. I may. I'm not saying I won't, but man, it's been a great 6 months of being alcohol free.
I have 12 years sober.
Wow.
We've never talked about this, but so I stopped drinking because I realized that I didn't have a drinking problem. I was actually a really good drinker.
Yeah.
But I had a coping problem.
Yeah.
And so again, it's just like one of the, and everyone's like, oh, are you not going to drink ever again? And I was like, I can't think about ever again. Yeah. I'm just not going to drink today. Right. And so that one day at a time mentality really shifted that whole mindset for me.
Yep. Absolutely,
and so,
man.
Kudos to you, man. I think it's a big step, and it's the more circles that you're around, the harder it is because the hardest place for me, I'm a big baseball guy. I know you love soccer, but when I went to my first baseball game and I would have normally had a blue moon right there. And it was
totally,
that was hard. That was hard.
Yep. It's those things, dude. Cause again, exactly. I'm a season ticket holder for Nashville SC. And what I do, my routine is I get there when the gates open. I go straight and get a home style double IPA. I sit and I watch warm-ups, drinking my beer. It's the same thing. So what have I done? And thank you, Nashville SC and Geodis Park. But they have what's called hop water now. Yep. So they've got, it's not even NA beer. It's not even NA. It's hop water. And so I drink that. It's a big can. And so it just is kind of sweet. I still have a thing. I still got a shtick. And so luckily the NA game is kind of getting bigger and bigger. And so I'm pretty grateful that more and more people are kind of going in that direction.
One of the things that you said recently on, I believe it was on Sharon's podcast, is that we've accidentally become addicted to rage. And I think there's a lot of leaders who are listening right now who know that they have that inside of them. And so I think there's a lot of us who can admit man, I can be rage baited. I can be kind of, my kids would say gaslighting. You're gaslighting someone or something like that.
Yeah.
How do we begin to go into this season of life where we turn our internal temperatures down?
It's a great question. Well, are you out there being a light or are you out there bringing heat? And light doesn't have to bring heat. And if you're constantly feeling like you got to bring the heat, I'm going to bring the heat. I'm going to bring my opinion. I'm going to bring the heat on this situation. I just got to the place where I was like, wait a second, am I bringing heat or am I bringing light? I'm called to bring light.
Yeah.
And so if my light is always hot, I got two LED lights shining on me right now. They're not hot at all, but they're doing their job. Yep. They're illuminating me. And so as leaders, I think you just have to ask yourself the question, am I always running hot? Is this fuel, this rage that is in me always? Like, is my neck getting hot and red when I'm scrolling on my feed? Am I like looking at my opinions that my friends have on Facebook and it's driving me crazy? Oh no, then you're running hot. You're not bringing light. And so, there's a difference. I just think for me, I've had to get to the point where I was like, am I bringing the heat or am I bringing the light? I want to be bringing light that's not necessarily hot. I'm not saying you can't get hot. I'm not saying that's not, but like, is that your average temperature? For a lot of people that spend their days on their phones, it is. And I just think that this addiction to rage is coming through the needle. And I talk about it a lot. I say that the phone is the needle. It's not the drug. People say they're addicted to their phones. I was like, no, a heroin addict's not addicted to the needle. They're addicted to the heroin.
Yeah.
What's coming through? For most people, it's rage. And that's what sells now. All the podcasts that I listen to, like, rarely are the biggest ones, just helping you feel better about life. They're the ones that are just like, boom, what's happening this week? How can I piss you off? How can I get you hot? Well, they're the ones getting paid. So I know that it's hard, but it's definitely something that every leader needs to ask themselves.
Okay, I have one more question for you. But before I ask it, can you tell us about your new book yet?
I can, and just don't go out tweeting this. Don't go out, but the Tony podcast is going to get, it's not called the Tony podcast, but it's actually called Burn the Blueprint. And I shared a little bit in the middle of this episode about it, but as I enter this sage season of my life, and as I watched my father take his last breath, it was 3 a.m. after my dad took his last breath and my mind was spinning. Did the blueprint get him to where he wanted? And I watched him spend the last few years of his life feeling isolated and lonely after he stood on stages in front of thousands of people, was the most influential man in the state of California, all of these things. And then he got forgotten in a lot of ways. And so is the blueprint we're following worth it? And so my answer is no. And I help people burn it. What is it? Is it the success blueprint, the family blueprint, the financial blueprint, all these blueprints that society has given us? Yeah. I say burn them, and I'm going to help you build a compass. And that's the new thing, dude. It's my most like, it's not a memoir. It's the first book I've ever written that is like, kind of like you said, patriarch Carlos, sage Carlos, sat down on his laptop and said, I'm not going to write you a memoir of 7 weeks of my life. I'm going to spill it to you right now and help you in 15 chapters. And so
more prescriptive than it is.
Yeah. So for sure. Yeah. So it's my first book that I think, is going to be like, I'm the teacher here. You're just not going to learn from my story. So I'm pretty pumped about it, dude. Burn the Blueprint.
When is it going to come out?
September.
Love it. Great. That's perfect. You always come on my podcast in September anyway.
Let's go.
Okay. Last question. This year, I'm asking everyone the same question at the end of the podcast, which is this. Tell us about the best leader that you know. Name and what made him or her the best leader.
Oh. Did you ask me this last time or no?
No. Last year I asked you. This is that first time I've ever asked this question at the end to kind of go with the theme. Last year I asked you, what are we celebrating a year from now?
Yes, I got it. I'm going to say, this may surprise him when I say this. I'm going to say my buddy Mike Foster.
I love Mike.
Yeah. And Mike's not a loud guy. He's not super performative on socials. He's always just been a steady undercurrent of encouragement for me. When my life has hit the fan numerous times, he was the one that was just steady in there for me. Being like, hey, I'm going to be here. I'm still going to be here. And, he's got a book now called 7 Primal Questions or something like that. He's doing incredible work, but I'm not even talking about that work. I'm just talking about this guy he's somebody that when you listen to or you read or you talk to, you're like, I want to follow that guy. I want to follow. And there's just something about that characteristic where you find a leader that you're like, they're not brash and they're not loud. And I want everything that they've got. Mike's that guy. So if you haven't heard of him, look him up. He's incredible. He's got incredible resources, but he's a great leader.
Carlos, I always appreciate your willingness to come on and chat with me and just be so generous with your time and friendship.
Absolutely.
And I just can't wait to see what God does next in this season of Patriarchal Carlos.
Let's go. Andy Stanley era, clocking in, baby.
Man, what a great conversation with Carlos. I absolutely loved the way he talked about supporting his parents, the importance of balancing new and old, and the reason why he loves so many hobbies. He and I are so much alike that way. And I mentioned to you at the beginning of the podcast about the coach's question. It's one question that I want to give you to help you wrestle with your own growth. And today's question comes from a lot of the themes that Carlos mentioned. Where in your leadership are you still following a blueprint that no longer fits the person you're becoming? And what would it look like for you to let it go? Where in your leadership are you still following a blueprint that no longer fits the person you're becoming? And what would it look like to let it go? I bet there's a lot of us who are holding on to things that we don't need to anymore. What would it look like to let those old tapes, thoughts, ideas, to let them go so that God can do something new? Feel free to email me your answers, or if you need help, that's what I'm here for, Tony@twmilt.com. As always, I'm forever thankful for you, our podcast family. Make sure you go and take the benchmark. Follow the number 2leadbenchmark.com. And hey, I'm really excited to be on this transformational journey with you. Because remember, if you want to follow Jesus, you must be willing to move.